All right. So, welcome, Joe. This is my podcast. I'm super excited to have you. This is Joe Hermosa from Hermosa's Mobile Notary. And I met Joe from cold calling him, basically. I talked to him. I called him because one of my friends, Cesar, who actually just came and talked about SEO, recommended that I check out some extra ways to get extra cash because being an agent just wasn't cutting it. Needed some extra cash for school, rent, things of the sort. And I was like, yeah, but if I do that, I'm going to need someone who has like excess business. So I looked up Mobile Notary online or Notary online, and Joe was the first person to pop up. And this is because he had over 500 5-star reviews. He had some of his SEO dialed and locked in. And he also had just like a general presence on Google once you got to see him. So that is how I met Joe. And I find he's a pretty interesting guy because he does a lot more than just notaries. So we're going to be delving into that. How he's created his business to revolve around his life, not the other way around, and things of the sort. So, welcome, Joe.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's been a minute. We've been talking about it, so it's good to finally get in here.
Yeah. So, other than what I just described you as, do you have any other things that you typically would add to your like summary or like your bio or anything else?
Yeah. So I'm from Austin. I proudly represent Austin, specifically Southside, but of course all of Austin. And I'm also like an artist, so I do murals, canvas work, and also design clothing and things like that. So I also have my real estate license, so I've done some business doing that, a few deals here and there, but mostly transitioned to just like the notary and the art because it's just been honestly like busy enough to where I don't need to be doing the real estate right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I remember whenever I first met you, we would like talk. You kind of trained me on this, and I feel like notaries are one of those. It's like a role and like a title that can get pretty complex pretty fast, but as for the most part, your day to day can be relatively simple as well, and it could be done very easy and very well because we in a sense are going to people's homes and providing a service to them, and that is like the aspect that we get compensated a lot for. The aspect of traveling where like most banks won't travel to. Most banks won't go to someone's house and notarize a document, notarize a will, or something of the sort.
And we also get like different businesses, and whether it be like title companies or law firms or medical people where we go out there too. So it's kind of been able to expand just outside of the homes too. So that's been good. We've been able to do that, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, Robert F. Kennedy too.
Yeah, that was dope. That was crazy. And so with that one, they actually had hit me up the day before, and it wasn't him obviously, but it was like the reps, and so they were saying if we could do it in the morning. I was like, yeah, for sure. And then I had some things come up the next morning that I had to go to, and so I was like, see if you could pop out, and it was great. You were ready to go, so it was good.
Yeah. So Joe hit me up at like 9 in the morning, and he was like, "Hey, I'm going to the go to the Four Seasons. They have a notary there." I'm like, "Oh, Four Seasons. Those guys typically have some good tips."
Yeah, not for real.
I was like, I'm gonna make some extra cash today, so I was kind of happy about it. And then from there, I ended up meeting the vice president candidate, and I did a notary for her. And thankfully, whenever I was looking at her document, I noticed that the notary for Robert F. Kennedy had been messed up, and I was like, hey, I know it's like presidential election, and like you guys are probably gonna get like scrutinized over every little detail. This notary is like wrong. He like kind of he put the date where it shouldn't be, and then he like completely disregarded this part. And then they were like, oh well, dang, we don't want that. So they start printing it again, and he's like, hey, I'm so sorry. Looks like we're gonna have to do another one. Would you be okay with doing it for Bobby? And I was like, yeah. and he's like, yeah, Bobby Kennedy is running for president. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I was like, sure. And I was like, who's Bobby Kennedy? And I just like clicked. I was like, Robert F. Kennedy.
You're like, oh, snap.
And I'm like, oh, dang, this is like the most high level notary I had. Another interesting one was Mr. Ballin. He has like a big YouTube channel, and he has an Amazon series coming out.
Oh, nice.
We did one for him.
That's sick.
I think
we've done a few.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you've had your fair share of experiences of like people that you're like, whoa.
Yeah, like I don't even know if we could say some of the things, but like some of the big like designer people, that come to the city from out of town, like some of those types of things. Also like big CEOs of some of these companies that are household names and things like that. So it's kind of like it's cool because you see the addresses and you're like, okay, like there's some money or something out there, but then you get out there and you don't expect to like meet somebody like that all the time or whatnot, but then you like see an ID or you see a name on a document and it's like, oh, okay, it's interesting, it's cool, it's just cool.
It has like provided me with like a few interesting conversations. Like from time to time, I'll bring like the hat and I'll just say like McCombs, and they'll be like, "Oh, you're a McCombs student."
I'll wear like my Texas State ring and just be like, whatever. People like to ask, especially in Texas, they like to ask about it. So it's kind of
it is very like interesting thing. But we what I've kind of noticed is that you're very good about balancing a lot of your work, and on top of that, you're great at balancing the things that you do outside of it. So you, in a sense, have like your monthly bills, your expenses, your personal finances that you have to take care of, but you do Hermosa Mobile Notary sometimes around other people's schedules, but like you use it in a way that fills your life. Like there's sometimes where like you just call me like, hey, I'm doing this mural and I can't do notaries for the day. So like you just like take off and you like send it off to someone and you still get like a kickback out of it. Okay. So what is that like scenario? What was like the thought process in originally creating it? Was it always like designed to be revolving around your life? Like what has been your thought process around the business?
So originally I was working with my mother, who was an attorney, and so just at the time, I was young, just started college and stuff like that. So she needed a notary in the office. I got that, and then I was going to business school for entrepreneurship studies and things like that and management at Texas State. So they were always talking about starting little businesses, and so since I had that, I was just trying to think outside the box, like what could I do? So I just started that, got my little Google profile, made my little website, And so it was just supposed to just be, just be me. And that's what it was for the first few years. And then with 2020 boomed it because everything closed. So the banks closed, like all the places that did the notaries closed. And so it just went to a mobile service. And at that point, I had kind of already like carved away for my Google presence or whatnot. Like I was already like number one in like as many 5-star reviews, you know what I mean? Like all of them were like 5-star, and the closest one was maybe like 40 below me at that point. And so like whenever it shut down, people were just calling because people still needed notaries, business still had to go, but like they couldn't get it done. And like I guess it was kind of unprecedented, like that type of situation. And so from there, I was just like bombarded. So it was great because it became like completely full, like full time, going crazy. And then and from there, I was able to like exponentially get more reviews and everything because I was just, doing the services and like allowing them to, do the reviews if they want to. I guess I would like provide the link or whatnot to them at that point,
Whenever I had my friend Cesar on, he was talking about SEO and how one of the biggest things that you could do is appear number one on Google, and I feel like you did that very well. So he said that one of the things that Google tries penalizing is having artificial fake 5-star reviews.
For sure.
Have you gotten like?
I've never gotten artificial ones, but I've actually had real ones taken off.
Really?
Because they thought they were artificial, and I'd like try to talk to them, but you know you don't get through to a human or whatnot. So
yeah.
I couldn't get them back, but I remember at one point I had like 7 to 12 reviews taken off that were like real ones, and I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, what he was saying is that like if you want to do it, you have to do it sporadically, and then you can't do it on the same day. And then on top of that, Google has like some weird rules about like compensating people for leaving a review. So I was like, that is interesting.
People get compensated for that?
Yeah, like you can't compensate someone.
Oh, correct. Yeah. No, for sure.
So I was like thinking about that, and then he was talking about like all the little ways his SEO company kind of goes around the rules and starts like appearing a little bit higher within Google pages for like certain keyword searches.
I see. I've spoken with some SEO people, and like, okay, so I just did mine organic, right? Like, okay, allow people to have the QR code, they can scan it, they can do it if they want to, whatnot. But I have spoken with some people about like SEO in general, and mostly what the information I received was like, you just have to kind of like pay for like these types of ads and placements, and like for them to do the keywords and stuff like that. I think the keywords and things like that are beneficial, but sometimes like just with the ads, or not the ads, but the reviews that we already have, I don't necessarily feel like it's beneficial to pay for that ad whenever we're like the second one and it's pretty noticeable that we're organic. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know that what he talked about was like blog posts. So like one of the things that he was always mentioning is how he wrote blogs. So whenever someone would ask like a certain question, like what is an affidavit?
That's pretty live. Yeah.
Like your website would be the first one to pop up, and then it'd say like, oh, Hermosa Mobile Notary. So he would go under like certain questions like that. So we were kind of talking about that and breaking it all down and how to be like one of the first ones to appear to like a very specific question. Like an affidavit, like a lot of people are like, what is
an affidavit?
Yeah.
And you can like provide a blog post, so it's like one of those links that whenever you click on that down button, it's like one that pops up right there.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
So he was like talking about how blog posts are like some of the more beneficial ones, but what adds to that is when you have a YouTube video attached to it. Yeah. So he was like kind of putting me on some game, and she was showing me like SEO on YouTube as well, off a screen. And it was kind of cool because we were just like talking about all these things, but you've gotten to a point where lead generation doesn't seem to be that big of an issue for you.
Right.
And you're just kind of like flowing, kind of managing it like to your lifestyle. Like maybe you don't want to work as heavy certain weeks, so you pass it off to your notaries that work with you. And maybe sometimes you're like, hey, I have to get more money. So I have to work more myself.
Yeah.
So how do you like choose between like those states and periods in life?
That's a good question. So yeah, the lead generation is kind of like it's coming in, you know what I mean? But I definitely see value in doing some more marketing and things like that, just because now we have more notaries that are available to, you know, service the area. So now it would be beneficial as well, you know, to get all of y'all some more stuff, and me too, right? Everybody some more stuff. But anyway, about the other part that you were asking, so like with the murals and things that I do, I kind of like, I've gotten to a point where I can do that. I can do my artwork and I can schedule my artwork how I would like to, and then be able to either have you guys do things or have me do things. So like I'll schedule my projects as I'd like, and then just I'll kind of base it off the projects, to be honest. And like, you know what I mean? Like whatever projects I have going, because obviously I'm getting compensated for those things. So it still makes sense for me to give it to y'all make money, and then I'll still make my percentage off of that. You know what I mean? And just kind of like do it like that. Or say I have like personal things I want to go see my family wherever they are, things like that. You know, okay, I got these few days that I'm gonna go do this. Like, hey guys, you know, these days y'all gonna be being able to do things like that.
And I remember we were like, there's been times where I've like met you, and we've kind of like you're I remember you were once like in a really popular spots near Barden, and Barden's like this like little area in town in Austin, Texas, for anyone who's not an Austin local. And you were painting one of the businesses there, and I remember I was like, oh, dude, this is cool. So like, if you ever look at Austin, and if you look at like the very like hippie, like very artistic side of it, and you see like all the arts on the building, some of that is Joe, and you'll probably see some of his paintings on pretty notable places.
Yeah.
So what are the more notable places that you see your work in?
For sure. So I guess most recently, I guess a big notable one was I did a mural for a Tide activation for South by Southwest on the frontage road of 35 and 6th Street. So that one was really, big, gets so many views across the board. I've done a mural.
Do you initial it?
Yeah. Initially and put my @ so it's like people can see.
Yeah.
And then what else? I got one at Lamar Union on South Lamar where the Alamo Draft House is. I did it for Greenbelt Botanicals. Shout out Greenbelt Botanicals. I love them. And then what else? I done one Terry Sather Auto on Ben White and Manchac area, South Austin. Shout out them. They do like BMWs, Range Rovers, Mini Coopers. Like they've been here since like the late or 76, I believe they opened. So like they've been Austin, like go-to people for the European cars. What else? Some good ones. I did the Barbie mural for the Barbie movie at Joe's Coffee on South Congress. So it's the one that says "I love you so much," and I added to it. So it said "Barbie, I love you so much," and then it was from Ken.
Oh, you're the one who did that?
Yeah, I did that.
I've been seeing that.
Yeah.
That is so cool. So, wow, I'm gonna probably cut that into a clip, and that's probably gonna go up there.
That's dope.
That's so cool. I'm pretty sure you've seen like so many people taking photos.
So many people, and it was great because there was so many people coming while I was doing it, and then also like after while it was up, and I was able to get a lot of photos of a lot of cool people, like families and couples, whatnot, and they were just enjoying it, so it was dope.
Yeah. So I noticed like especially with Austin, like graffiti is like a very big thing, and like a very like it looks ugly like a lot of the times, like where people kind of just like tag their name, and they'll even tag like some of the murals. Like, have you ever had that scenario happen to yours?
So I hadn't have it happen until this year on that Tide mural for South by this year. But it's like right there in the thick of everything, so I kind of understand it. But I went back like the next day and just like fixed it all up, so it was good. But I will say shout out the graffiti community, street art and everything in Austin, because like they haven't ever really messed with my stuff, and I don't try to mess with their stuff, whatever, what I mean. So, but I do have some friends that they be getting up in the city, so shout out y'all. You know what it is.
Yeah. But I know that there's like this very notable one of Stephen F. Austin on Guadalupe Street, where a lot of University of Texas students come, and it's like a beautiful mural of like all the Austin, like all the big things in Austin. So it's like Stephen F. Austin, the Austin skyline, like the UT Tower, and then someone tagged it and just like put like black paint over it and like yellow paint over the next one. So for the next few weeks, I saw a couple of painters there, and they were like, "Yeah, got tagged, but oh well." and like they were just like there vibing out, painting the Austin mural. So I thought it was kind of cool to see that, like even if it gets tagged, like the artist who originally created it just still goes back to it.
For sure, yeah, no, that's a big thing for artists, that we do, like murals and things like that. We have like a pride in our work, we don't want it to be seen in a certain light that wasn't intended from us, you know what I mean? But we also understand the people, or at least I understand people that, like if they want to tag it, like, it could be a range of people that are walking around with a spray paint can, so you can't really generalize who did it, you know what I mean? But yeah, like, and then for the clients, we want our clients to feel like they are getting what they wanted originally. They don't want it all tagged up, they want the nice art. So. Yeah.
So one of the things that I've always been wondering, like, how do you even get into this? It's such like it's like a space that like someone's like, oh yeah, you're gonna put spray paint or like help paint the front of my business, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna trust you with like thousands and thousands of dollars for you to do this.
Yeah.
How do you even get into it? Like, what was your first big like role, and like what was the scenario of like first getting into it?
Yeah. So I had been doing art on like canvases and drawing and all that type of stuff since I was like in middle school. Well, like drawings, and then in high school I started doing some canvases and some t-shirt stuff. But yeah, like by 2017, 2018, I was still doing that stuff just for like myself, you know, my friends and things like that. And they would be like, you should show these people, you know, you should show people, you know, because we like it a lot. Like we're not just trying to tell you that. And so I was like, okay, cool. So then I started posting it, and like some people, you know, people started liking it. And then I would do like markets and things like that, sell my art, sell my clothing that I would do. And then I started like going from there, and I was doing that for a while. And one of my buddies, his fiance at the time, she's like part of the Greenbelt family over there on Lamar, and they have other locations now. They have a few, so go see. But yeah, so they had like a call for art, and he sent me the thing, and so it was like a wall, and I was like, bro, like, you know, I've always wanted to do something like that. Like, sure. He was like, you should do it. I was like, all right, bet. Like, I'll go like submit. So like, I submitted, and I went and I met with their GM at the time, Mindy. Shout out Mindy. And we just like spoke, and she was just like seeing my art, and she liked what I was doing. She liked the vibe, and she was like, okay, like, you got it. You know what I mean? Just like come up with the design. We'll get it approved with the facility, you know, like the whole people, and then we'll just run it. And so she like really gave me a shot to like do my art the way I wanted to do it on the mural. And like, so it was great. It was great. And then just like pop that one out. I don't know. And that was the first one. It was like, I mean, to this day, it's like one of my favorites, you know, and like, like I don't want to say fan favorite, but people that like it, you know, people that see it, like they like it.
Yeah, so I've always wondered about your income scenario, because it goes from like your notaries, and then your murals, and then you also have like clothing line. And I understand like there's seasons, like especially when you're in the beginning phases of everything. How did you even go about managing like three different businesses, and then from there making sure you had enough income to support yourself, and then enough income to even like have the businesses run a little bit smoother?
Yeah. So originally I was doing like the notary and the real estate mainly. Like I was really popping on the real estate, like doing stuff like deals and things like that. I was trying to do like I did a few, you know what I mean? So I was trying to do that and the notary stuff to like live at that time. And that's like whenever I was starting doing all the art, like actually pushing it. And then like I kind of like try to get myself in a comfortable space. Like it was all gradual, right? You know, but I'm just a hustler. So like as things come up, like I'm doing. And then I just got to a place where I could like sort of transition things, you know, and like be comfortable and more fluid with how I can like move, because I put in work to like get to a certain space. You know what I mean? Is that kind of what you were asking, or like, or what do you think?
Yeah. So like I want to talk about like more so how was it initially? Because were you said that at one point you were notary for your mom, and then was that like before or after graduation?
Of college?
Yeah.
That was before. So like I moved out of my house when I was 18, and I was working with her like as in like in her space for like a notary is like probably like 6 to 8 months.
Okay.
Like my second semester of freshman year, and then after that I just worked for myself. Like just started working for myself. Yeah.
And then from there, like I'm pretty sure was it at all a struggle? Because like a lot of people talk about like the struggle of entrepreneurship, and sure there was like a struggle. Like for me, the main struggle whenever I'm starting like any entrepreneurial venture is lead generation and just getting more people to want my stuff. But since notary is almost like I would consider it there with like a government service, it's like something that everyone needs, because a lot of deeds, wills, titles, all that extra legality stuff that is in the background that
needs that.
No one likes thinking about, but eventually needs to think about it. We see that, and we're like the service. So do you feel like it's a field where like the service is so like it's so needed that like lead generation wasn't a big issue for you whenever you first getting started?
No, I think lead generation was definitely a big issue because there was already established notary publics. You know, there was already people like I started in 2016, so like that was like 4 years before COVID. You know what I mean? So it was like still competing with the bank, still competing with all the other places you can go do it. You know what I mean? And then on top of that, like the original people that were doing the mobile notaries, you know, before it got popular in COVID. You know what I mean? And so like I had to really go out to businesses and had to go out to like my network and had to do all that type of thing, you know, at first, and like pass out cards and, you know, call people and see what businesses would need it or whatnot. So like it was a lot of stuff, bro. Like I didn't even get, like I wasn't even thinking it was gonna do like too much up until like 2019 was good, but it's still, if the market hadn't changed, I don't know like how far it would have gone. You know what I mean? Like it would have been like a good like passive little side hustle. You know what I mean? But not like
extra $100 here and there.
Like I'm talking like the business, you know, bro, has been making enough money to like it's really competitive with like some of these real life people jobs, you know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Like what real life people jobs do you mean? Like very like corporate,
very corporate, established. Like you gotta have a hierarchy, like you know what I mean? Like work under somebody, things like that. You know what I mean? So like a lot of people like they don't understand what it really is, and that's okay, you know, like because I think that it's out of the norm for what's going on with our business. You know what I mean? Like sure, there may be one or two maybe in the city, maybe, you know what I mean? But not even, you know what I mean? So like, we're like kind of an outlier. So I understand why the general public, at least to me, when I'm out there, they don't understand.
Yeah. Yeah, because it is like a really interesting space. And like, I remember whenever I talked to my SEO buddy, he was like telling me, he's like, dude, I was like telling him, I was like, dude, I'm not sure. Because we used to have like this little co-living space and we would both work there. And then we would just like catch up. Like, what are you working on? Oh, lead gen. Like, oh, he's working on SEO. And then he was like, dude, are you still needing extra cash? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, you should check out being a mobile notary. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, what is that? He's like, dude, last time I had an application. And this, and like I was trying and calling everyone, could not find a single mobile notary, called like 10 places. And the dude that showed up 30 minutes late, high as hell, in shorts, like really, like he just woke up and like, I was like, fuck man, this is horrible, but I still gotta get this notarized. So, it's kind of funny because like I thought of that and I was like, dang dude, like I don't even know what like a mobile notary is, but I'll like check it out. And then like I think whenever I called you, we set a meeting and then you kind of explained some of the processes like to me. And even then there's just like the thing about you is that I know that you're very meticulous about your the documents, and I think that's good because if you don't, then you might mess up someone's will, or you might mess up like the title to someone's car, or we're talking about like big exchanges,
like deeds, you know, property things, like
there has been like times where we've transferred over 30 properties in a day, and those were like big life changes, and like we've seen estates kind of transfer hands, and it's kind of cool because then you're meeting these people that are like, oh snap, what do y'all do? Oh, what? Y'all are transferring 30 properties in one day?
Yeah. It's really interesting. Like, it's cool because you get a broader perspective and get to see, like, things that maybe you otherwise wouldn't be exposed to in a day-to-day setting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, I noticed how easy it is to get a will now. And I feel like before I was always like, oh, wills are for, like, wealthy people. Like, I won't really, think of it. But I was in a notary the other day, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we just did this off of LegalZoom for like $100."
You can print it for free.
Yeah.
You can print it for free on eforms.com. Shout out eforms.
Yeah, so I think it's like one of the more interesting things. One of the things I hope to really talk about and do on this podcast is have like an estate lawyer on here and talk about like what are some of like the basic things that wealthy people do and what are the things that people don't really think about. So I kind of want to delve into like corporate entities and structures, but that could get really complex.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to like break it down to a conversational level. Same thing I did with like the tax lawyer guy.
Mm-hmm.
Taxes are like big and complex, but whenever I was talking to the tax lawyer guy, I was like, oh, this is how to make taxes simple for like the average human and how to pay less in taxes.
Yeah.
Because I think everyone would like $1,000 more.
Yeah. Well, the way that you know my businesses are structured, you know, I typically like either throughout the year pay them quarterly or pay
like with withholdings.
Yeah. So it's like I don't get the luxury of refund too much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've always worked as a 1099 contractor. And I also think the same thing. Like, I never get the luxury. Like, everyone's so happy about tax season, but, like, that's my time to grind.
Literally, it's like, let's run it up. No, for real. That's funny.
So, I always think it's, like, so funny. Because I've even rejected a job offers as W-2. Because I'm like, screw that, dude. Like, I could pay 20% less if I'm a contractor. Mm-hmm. And like a lot of people don't think about that. They're like, yeah, I'm getting all this refund. But I was like telling my mom, I was like, yeah, I just rejected a W-2 offer. She's like, what? I'm like, oh, no, don't worry. I'm going 1099. She's like, why would you do that? You're going to have to pay. I'm like, I know. But I get to do all my deductions. The home office, the mileage, the car. I transferred my car to my LLC.
Yeah.
Originally to like lower insurance. I talked about this on a separate episode.
I seen that.
Yeah, it was kind of cool because like I'm 21, so I'm a at-risk driver. Mm-hmm. And like one of the things I was like, screw this, dude. I was like, they're just stereotyping me because my mom's a bad driver.
That's hilarious.
And I am a pretty bad driver, but but I switched it over to LLC. But before that, I got like business insurance quotes, and it shot it down $200. So I was like, wow, that makes so much like more of a difference. Yeah. And like I just like think about these concepts on like little ways to like skim and save. And like Ramit Sethi's book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich, went over like some of the principles that I still instill in to this day. And those are like, think about like big wins. Mm-hmm. And the big wins are like, where can you cut costs? Not just like $5, but like $100.
Yes.
So
I've been doing that shit lately.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
You're good. But I kind of like think about those scenarios, and I'm like, this world could get like very complex, like with all the noise. You hear about investing, you hear about taxes, you hear about finance, you hear about all this stuff, and like the stock market, it can get very loud. But I feel like in the places that I have been and I've worked at, so this is with you as a mobile notary, I get to see wills, I get to see like title transfers, I get to see some of like the legal documents, I get to help people with like adoptions at times.
Yeah. And
it's like, whoa, dude, I didn't know like there was so much like structure to all this. There is and there isn't.
Right. It depends on the industry. Yeah. But I mean, there are a lot of important situations.
Yeah. There's like a lot of like pivotal situations that are like writing on a document. And I'm like, I never would think of this. Yeah. It's never like, oh, I'm going to think about like titles and wills and estates. Like most people don't want to think about that.
Right. And it's interesting how many people don't want to think about it. And anybody watching this, I encourage you to think about those things and try to get that set up in a timely manner for yourself, or at least when you have things like set up to a manageable place for yourself, because you never know what's going to happen. And I've seen too many situations where people don't have those things set up until it's really late. And then like, you know, sometimes it's either really hard to do it or it's not possible to do it at that point. So just try to like think about that.
Yeah. So there's been like some situations where unfortunately like someone's like, we can't notarize something when someone's like under duress or like not conscious or something of the sort. Just because of like legal and ethical dilemmas. And so like go through like some of the documents. Like people are hearing us talk about like wills and testaments, and they're like, yeah, whoop whoop. So here is like a good list of documents that you could just like think about, and like kind of think about in your day to day. These are going to be useful at some point in my life.
Like
So
for like a state document type things?
yeah, for a state document. So I'm thinking wills, power of attorneys.
Yeah, so the durable power of attorney, medical power of attorney, there's two different ones. Durable statutory is like more so for like your personal like affairs and things like that. And then medical is obviously for like medical, you know, things. So like having someone on your behalf to take care of those decisions for you if you're not able to. And then like the DNR, do not resuscitate. I mean, that's more so for a little bit older people. You know, younger people don't have to be necessarily always thinking about it day to day. I guess you could do like, yeah, I mean, I would make sure medical directive, they have HIPAA forms.
Wills.
I mean, yeah, the wills. I would say for like people our age and things like that, even a little bit older, like, or from your age up, basically, like make sure to try to think about the wills and then possibly the power of attorneys, because say like, for instance, you get hurt and you can't take care of something, or you for some reason go to jail, you can't take care of something, or you know, just like situations where you're not able to be there, or if you're in another city and you can't take care of something.
You're in jail in a foreign country and someone needs to access your bank accounts.
Yeah, like you can give your mother power of attorney, and while you're gone, she can access your money and take care of your bills and things like that. You know what I mean? Like,
I've always had a question, because I guess this is like informative for me, but it also helps in like understanding, helping people understand. Like I hear about like wills and estates and all this, and like a lot of like I have a lot of customers or people kind of ask me like, do I need to file this? And recently you had been like, no, you don't need to file it.
Right.
But do you know like the process behind all that?
Like filing things?
Yeah.
So you can file a will and you can file like power of attorneys and things like that. The thing about it is that it becomes public record at that point. So it's like, you know, if you want anybody to be able to go look at that, you know, versus just having it within your family. So it's kind of like one of those things. So it's like just something that's not typically necessary as long as you have the original. You know what I mean? Like, because a lot of these institutions say like if you're putting your mother into a like rehab nursing care facility, they're not gonna ask you for a recorded will. They're just gonna say, do you have the original or do you have a copy of it? Same thing with the power of attorneys. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But one thing though I was gonna say is trusts are one of those things that I forgot to mention. So like putting your assets into trusts, like that's a big thing for a lot of different reasons, you know, financial reasons and legacy reasons, you know what I mean? So
yeah, and it's kind of weird because so going back to the point that I was saying, it's recently I've been learning a lot about how like this big American system operates, and it is built on like the backs of contracts a lot of the times. So me being a notary gave me a really good exposure to it. Me being a real estate agent kind of make me understand like what is like the biggest transfer of wealth that someone will have, and that is a house. That is the biggest asset that most people will buy in their lifetime. A car is the biggest liability that someone will own in their lifetime.
yeah.
And it's the number one wealth killer. So I find that pretty interesting as well. And then you talk about things such as like taxes. Lawyers need notaries.
Yeah.
And like a lot of the times that they have their paralegals become notaries just to have it. So I've worked at development firms, at loan offices, at banks, and like notaries are always needed. It's always like a service. You see it within like this big real estate and financial aspect, but you also see it in like the personal and medical life of people. And it's something that I never really thought about until that friend just casually mentioned it. And it's kind of taken me on a trip of just like coming to understand like, hey, what are some of the things that like these wealthy people that like we'll get an encounter in our day to day are doing? So you'll like understand their scenarios a little bit more, because you kind of have to ask them like, hey, who's like the principal here? Who is like the person transferring? Who is the person not?
Yeah.
And like you'll kind of like just create small talk from time to time, and then you're like, wow, dude, this person's this person's doing this with their money and they've made this much amount of money. So I kind of think of those scenarios and I'm like, they're suiting me well in terms of like building a lot more generational wealth and in terms of understanding just like the very complex world that we live in terms of like the financial world and just simplifying it, because I feel like the first step of really understanding anything is just awareness.
Right. And being exposed to those things is good, in gaining that awareness, and just after, you realize that we're all people, and it's just like, I don't want to put it in simple, generalize anything or anything like that, but, we can do a lot that we put our mind to. So it's like being able to have that exposure to certain things and be, like you said, asking questions and like being interested in those types of things will definitely help you going forward, because you'll be able to apply it how you feel, how you see necessary.
Yeah, it kind of like demystifies a lot of it. So what I kind of want to do, and I want to see if you're open to this.
What's that?
So I want to talk about the documents, create little clips of them, and then start a blog post.
Let's run it
with you.
Yeah, let's run it.
So let's use this time to kind of talk about like some of this, some of like the good.
Yeah.
Some of the documents.
Okay.
So what is the power of attorney? Let's do medical first. So we'll kind of both go into it and we'll like try to see what are like the different understandings of it.
Okay.
So
yeah.
For my understanding of medical power of attorney is like when someone is like in the hospital bed, they need like control of like their body and autonomy and overall like life when it comes to like life and death scenarios. But what is the medical power of attorney to you?
Yeah. So on the medical power of attorney, there's like a couple of different like options that you can put on about like what your power of attorney can do. But basically, I mean, you're pretty much correct. Like if somebody is either in a condition where they're not able to make their like voice their opinions, they've basically already made their wants and needs known and giving it to someone they trust to make that decision on their behalf. Like if they're just not able to for whatever reason.
So what are some of the things that you've seen on medical power of attorneys? Like we have the do not resuscitate. What else?
Well, do not resuscitate is its own document, but like on the medical power of attorneys, it's like if they want certain like treatments to be either like kept alive, regardless if they're like cognitively there or not, or if they want to be given medicine and like, let them naturally do what's going to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like making some of those decisions. Like, are you going to keep it? Are you going to keep your mom? I'll just say mom all the time. But are you going to keep your mom plugged in even though like there's no chance type thing, or you going to like let it run its course type thing?
So my roommate is actually a travel nurse and she talks about this a lot. She's like, people should actually think about like what will happen, like in the dire situation that I get into a car crash. And she said, and I quote, "If I'm a vegetable, I do not want to live." Right. She's like, "If I have a feeding tube, I do not want to live." So it's like thinking about those scenarios before they actually happen. And it's hard conversations to have. Like,
yeah,
you're but I feel like in having those conversations, you open yourself up to just like safety and security within those scenarios. And I think that's like pretty interesting.
It's like a peace of mind thing, like once it's not the easiest or like most fun thing to think about those things. But once you have it done and taken care of, it's like out of your mind. So like at that point, you don't even have to mess with it anymore. Like you've already made it, done the hard part, and like, cool. Now live your life as you like.
So the other one that I'm thinking about is the durable power of attorney. And that one has a lot of your financial assets, a lot of your stocks, a lot of your real estate, any assets, any liabilities, any debts. It's
being able to use like the bank accounts, being able to make gifts on other people on that person's behalf, or things like that. They also have like special provisions, like one of the ones that always gets people caught up or like thinking about, I guess, is like if you're going to give your power of attorney, like either there's two options, right? They both allow for reimbursement of that power of attorney for certain expenses. Excuse me. And then one of them provides like compensation in addition to the reimbursement. And so like people get caught up on that, but it's like what I see mostly, and I would probably do myself, is like I don't need compensation in addition to reimbursement. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and I think that is also like a great scenario, or not a great scenario, but a great document to have already ready to go, and you just have copies of the original document once you create it. And this allows you to just like not worry about the overall like finances, like what happens to my finances once I'm gone. Oh, it's okay because my
well, I had to stop you there because it's not once you're gone. It's like only up until you're gone. So the will is for after you're gone.
Okay,
Power of attorney is while you're still here.
Okay, yes, but like we're like saying, if like you were if you were like on your deathbed and like you're potentially going into like a surgery that you don't really know what's gonna happen, if you're gonna be like paraplegic or not, you would have this document ready to go. So like you, your wife, your mom, or anyone could control your finances and like get like your bills paid, get things sorted out for you.
Yeah.
Because other than that, like they wouldn't be able to.
Right.
And I want to talk about the will, and then I want to talk about what happens like if you don't. Because I understand like from real estate, I might be incorrect on this, but from my understanding, it's if you don't have a will and if you don't have heirs, well, first, if you don't have a will, then your property in Texas, at least, it goes split to your heirs. But if you don't have heirs, then from my understanding, it goes either to your wife, but if you don't have a wife, it goes to the government. So
pretty much.
Yeah, I thought that
there's
was
a lot of probate. Like it goes to probate. Like if you don't have everything set up, like a lot of times, it goes to probate, and then the heirs have to like amongst each other agree what to do,
Yeah,
and that's
they're
why
always beefing for some reason.
Yeah, they're always beefing, and that's why you see these other guys come in and they call us because they're going to each heir to get a document notarized as an agreement to sell that or to sell the interest of the property to that guy. And so they call us to go to each house individually as a nice notary to get the paper signed, and then that guy goes and buys that house and like tears it down and puts a new house.
Yeah, it is a really interesting like industry. So let's talk about the will.
Not that I condone that, because let's keep property with families and everything.
Yeah,
if you can, definitely.
Yeah, so I've actually heard about a horror story with this. I'm gonna tell it, and then we're gonna go to wills. So the horror story with this is there was this grandmother who had like 8 kids.
Oh wow!
And then those kids had like 3 each or 8 each. I'm not sure what's the exact number. Anyways, so she had 64 like heirs, and that means that the property was split amongst 64 people, and some people had like more interest, which basically just means like more of a percentage of what they own. And to sell property, you have to get signatures of everyone. So she basically made it out to do it that way so they could never sell the property. Wow. However, this was in Austin, Texas, where property values skyrocketed, and their property taxes were like going crazy. Yeah. And they still have to pay the property taxes, but hey, guess what? No one wants to pay it. Yeah. The 64 heirs can't agree on who's going to pay it because hey, you also owe some. You owe 64th of this.
And you own more. You know what I mean? You own more than me, so why should I have to pay that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So that creates like a scenario where like now there's tax liens, and then the tax liens, investors could buy them and then be like, hey, you guys aren't paying your taxes, so I'm going to foreclose on you. And then from there, I can like now take over this property myself. So this property that was once like an esteemed dear like property of the family that was going to be passed on from generation to generation is getting taxed way too much, and is getting taxed
But they're having to pay, or they didn't pay, so now they're going to do back taxes.
They're going to have back taxes, but then on top of that, they're probably going to get foreclosed on. And then on top of that, it's not going to be in there. Someone else is going to get it for a fraction of the cost.
Yeah, because it's going to go to the courts, and then the court, a lot of times they put it up for auction too, like depending on where it is, you know what I mean? You can get those lists.
Yeah, and
for the taxes.
Yeah, and there's like a lot of investors that operate that way. I mean, there's like people who invest in tax liens, and sometimes it could be a good thing, but sometimes like their ethics aren't in the right place. So I've dealt with like both sides of the coin, where like I've met investors who are like, yeah, dude, I purchased tax liens and then I sue the hell out of the rest of the family.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
It is pretty insane to hear that like up front. So I'm like, ooh. And then there's people who are like, oh no, like I pay off their taxes, but I get paid for like paying off their taxes, and like I'll help them create like a financial plan.
Right.
And things of that sort. Yeah. So I've seen both sides of the coin, and it could get pretty ugly.
It can get sticky too, for real.
So that's why I think of wills. Yeah. So now wills, what are these documents?
Yeah. So the will, it's basically outlining what you would like to have done after you're gone with your assets and things of that, your belongings and things like that.
Where can you get a will?
eforms.com for free.
eforms.com for free.
And you go on there, and it allows you to click your state, and then from there you can get the wills, you can get the power of attorneys, you can get a whole plethora of documents.
Okay. I'm assuming leases too, right?
I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Shout out eForms, I guess they're
y'all should sponsor us, for real.
Yeah.
Doing big things in the city.
Okay, so from there people get like a good understanding of it, and you just heard the horror story on why you should have a will, and why like someone should think about like having their property be given to someone else, and how they should probably split it up. So I find this to be very intriguing, because it's like back of the mind type of stuff. No one wants to ever think about it. Wills are a big one. You can get it at eForms. That's like a great place to kind of understand and kind of overview a will before you spend thousands of dollars on a lawyer.
Yes, you do not need to do that.
And we're just speaking from like notaries too. This is not legal advice.
That part. This is not legal advice. We're just saying that some of these things are available resources, because, I know and we know people that maybe don't have that type of money to go spend on that. You know what I mean? So it's just like helping the common person, because everybody should be able to do this type of thing.
Yeah, and that is like the weird thing that I think about. A lot of like institutions kind of gatekeep things. Like example, the creation of a LLC. You could just go to your Secretary of State.
Easy.
But lawyers will charge you $700
to create it. When all you got to do is go print it online off the Secretary of State's office, walk in, give it there with your payment, and they'll issue you your thing within reasonable time, a couple days, like a day or so.
Yeah, people overcharge you for this, and it's because they're highlighting their service, and like to each their own, because like everyone needs to make a living, but sometimes it's nice to not be ignorant over certain things that happen within our world. And I feel like that is my big goal within this channel, is just to create more financial literacy, more life literacy, more literacy in like the areas that we don't tend to think about.
Yeah, for sure.
And having those boring conversations, because like they kind of suck. Boring and hard.
Yeah.
I will say.
Yeah. Sometimes I find like peace in that after a certain point, because then it's like, okay, cool, that's dealt with, you know what I mean? And then you can never have to really be bothered by it or anything like that, because none of us know what's going to happen to us on any given day, you know what I mean? So it's like, I've had friends and known different people that have either gotten really badly hurt, died, or put in a position where they can't take care of things and stuff like that. And it's just like, me being a notary, I'm like, well, dang, if they had this, they would be okay, or if they had that. But, so it's just something to think about,
Yeah. So we're at the end, we're probably going to do a to-do list to think about certain documents. So, all right, so we have a will, power of attorney durable, power of attorney
medical.
And then what other ones do you see a lot?
if you have property or assets, I would say consider a trust.
Like forming a trust?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I've really dealt with trusts, and they're still kind of foreign to me. I understand that they're like huge for like tax savings and estates.
Right. Correct.
But other than that, like I haven't seen any documentation on that.
Yeah. I don't want to give too much, like, try to be an attorney because I'm not an attorney. But it does help with estates and the transfer of that property for after your passing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And stuff like that.
So e-forms, I'm guessing, would have something like that?
I would assume so, to be honest.
So is it eforms.com?
eforms.com.
Okay. That is cool. I just want to make sure I'm not entering some sketchy website.
Yeah. So I do want to say, I think with the trust, it's like you can, so like basically say it's my trust, right? Joe's trust. I put my properties under that trust. So the properties belong to the trust, not really to me. And then I name my son as a beneficiary of that trust.
Beneficiary being like the person who like receives the power of it.
Right. Basically. Yeah. Like who it's transferred
on, like,
to.
how it is.
Who is transferred to basically. Yeah. And so like after my passing, it would transfer to that beneficiary. So it wouldn't like go out to no heirs. It wouldn't go out to like it wouldn't be misconstrued who it's going to, versus where maybe if you leave a will or if you don't leave a will for sure, you know what I mean? Like it can get a little muddied up depending on the property or who has any type of interest in it or whatnot. You know what I mean? But that trust to like solidify those types of things.
Yeah. Okay, so we have will, power of attorney medical, power of attorney durable, trust. Is there any other documents that you could think of?
Not really too much. Not this like I would advise everybody right now to go do. Those are basically like the important ones.
Yeah, I think those cover like the big four areas because it covers like your medical area, your financial area, and like what happens after you die, what happens in these dire situations.
And like you said, the medical situation, like if you do get hurt, you already have it planned out what you would like to happen, so that person who you name doesn't have to guess what you want.
Yeah, so I think it's like pretty interesting because you have to have like trust within this, and those are like the hard conversations that you must have whenever you're like forming these documents.
That's crazy.
And like there's been scenarios where like I think we've been called out and like they're still arguing about it, and we're like, we can't do this.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure you've dealt with like scenarios like that. I've dealt with a couple already.
In what way?
Like where someone's like under duress or someone's like, I'm not, like, or they'll like fight in front of you and you're like, dude.
Yeah, like I've had people that fight in front of me. I've had people that try to like physically hold their relative's hand to try to sign something. Like we can't do that. You know what I mean? Somebody who's like obviously not in their correct mind because they don't remember meeting me a couple seconds ago, you know what I mean? And they want me to sign it, and they'll be like, well, no, like he remembers, right dad, you remember me saying this? And the dad's like confused because his son or daughter or whatever is like telling him right, and he wants to say right, but he doesn't really know, you know what I mean? And so,
Yeah, and it is like pretty tricky to kind of like think of this scenario. So there's like a lot of ethics that go into it because a lot of the times we are dealing with like big time like processes and life events in people's lives.
Yeah, and like think about it. Like say that gentleman who isn't remembering like has like multiple children, but only one of his children was there while that will is signed, but the other children know that their father has that stuff going on, so they'll be like, he wasn't even supposed to be signing nothing like that in the condition that he's in, and then now you just gave this will that gives all this stuff to that one sibling. Whenever they know that's not right, of course those other siblings are going to take it to court, and it's going to be on us to be like, oh, he was in his right mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So our job and our role as notaries is a service to basically say, hey, I saw this person, and it's basically it's basically the government putting like the ethical dilemma on us in a sense.
Yeah.
That's like what I'm thinking.
That's funny.
It's like, hey, did you? Because like whenever you get called to court, you're gonna be like, hey, Gabe, was this guy like good whenever you first met him, or like?
Right. They're gonna ask for our book entry. They're gonna ask for what ID he used, and then they're gonna ask us if he was in his right mind and all that stuff.
Yeah. So I think of like those scenarios and I'm like, dang, dude, this is like, I don't want to get called to court in like 15 years.
Literally.
So we try to do it right the first time. And what I really appreciate from you is like, especially whenever I was first coming into training, there was like some mistakes that I did, but we always like went back and fixed them.
Yeah.
And that's like what I love, because it's like you're really tedious when it comes to these documents. And for good reason, because it's like someone else's life. It's someone else's like big pivotal moments that they're entrusting us with. So we have to make sure that we're doing right by them. And because of this, we also like charge for what we're doing. We're doing good in terms of like,
we're gonna make sure that you getting what you asked for and that you're not gonna have issues going forward and that type of stuff.
Yeah. So I find it pivotal, because like a lot of people, they see like lawyers and they're like, oh, I don't want to hire a lawyer, or like they'll there's like a glue between like lawyers and like, I guess, people that aren't in this industry, and I feel like that is like the notary. Because like we'll kind of see these documents, and some of them might not be like the most educated, but once you're doing this for a long enough time, you'll kind of start picking up on like how like the system kind of works.
Yeah.
And how,
for which industry you're providing that for.
Yeah, because like, I mean, like we could get caught up in like every single industry, but I feel this episode has made it really clear on kind of what are like some of the basics of like those back of the napkin things, but those documents that people don't really think about: wills, estates, trusts, power of attorneys, all like the things that make you go like
literally. So, and we deal with that on a daily.
So let's do a to-do list. First, let me ask you this: what is something that if you had to have one thing that everyone would learn from you, what would it be?
That the power is within you to create your own reality and to make your life how you want it to be. And it's going to be hard, and there's going to be a lot of like trial and tribulation, but if you can get to the other side of that, you can get to a better place. And I'm not saying like I'm where I want to be at all, but I'm definitely further in a lot of the things that I'm doing than I thought I would ever be. So like, just try to do that.
Awesome. All right. So now let's do a to-do list, and then we'll plug in your socials, where we could find you, where you could find the business, and
cool.
So let's do a to-do list. So I think the main to-do list here is to start thinking about wills, to start thinking about your medical power of attorney, your durable power of attorney, and start thinking about trusts and how they work. And you could find a lot of good resources on eforms.com. It's a free service from my understanding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You just go online, eforms.com, and you'll be able to find it. Just put in your state, and then it comes up with a list of provided like PDFs. So you can just print them out.
Awesome. All right. And then that is like the big to-do list. Like if you gain anything from this episode, make sure you just do that.
Yeah. I would say check out wills, check out statutory durable power of attorney, medical power of attorney, and then if you have assets, I would, encourage you to do some research on trusts and how they work.
Yeah. So those are just some of the basics. Is there any other to-dos that you would recommend to the average person?
Just understand that there's processes to these, I guess, different situations. So understand if you're using a notary that they're not trying to undermine you or anything like that. They're just probably trying to get it correctly. And try to find a good notary, because not all notaries are really educated to what they should be.
Yeah, I mean, the barrier of entry to become a notary
it's very low.
Yeah.
It's very low.
Same thing with like real estate agents.
Mm-hmm. And that's, it shows. So
yeah. Yeah. So you want to make sure that you get a good notary. Robert F. Kennedy entrusted us with his presidential candidate. We didn't ultimately end up signing it, but
they took a picture though.
We did take a picture. We're the one who caught the mistake. I will say that.
Hey, that part.
Yeah.
That part. Good shit.
So we caught the mistake, but the Secretary of State had their own notary, and I was like, dude, I'm kind of jealous.
You know what's so interesting is that I have a really good relationship with the people at the Secretary of State, and like nothing against you, but I just wonder how that would have gone if I would have actually showed up. Like,
yeah,
I probably would have let you do it. I was like, oh my gosh, but that's great. I'm so glad that you like were able to like do something like that. You know what I mean? Like that's that's a different type of thing. That's a different type of thing.
I find it pretty funny because like I was like thinking about it. I was like, I got all the pros of the experience and none of the cons.
Literally, you don't have that liability on that.
Yeah, I don't have liability of like because since he's a presidential candidate, there's likelihood that someone's gonna contest it.
Yes.
And if they see my signature and like I don't want to get called to court and I want to have to go travel or like be on a Zoom call and that's like funny. Talking about how I made sure all this was correct. Yeah. Yeah. And I still got paid, and then I got invited to the presidential. It was like
a reception.
It was a reception. Yeah, I got invited to like a $500 reception for free, so it's kind of cool.
Where was it?
It was on 4th Street.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was like, dang, dude, people pay $500 to see this guy just like for a photo.
Really? Oh, they were just photo ops?
Yeah, it was just like photos, and like people kind of networking.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. I was like in the back just eating the charcuterie board.
You're like, my guy. Well, that's cool.
But yeah, so yeah, I think just like understanding those processes. This might seem like a little bit of like a mundane topic to think about, but it's one of those like topics that are like it's like boring, but it's like really good once you like think about it and you're like, oh, this is aware. I'm aware of this now.
Literally, being aware of it is the biggest thing because they don't teach that to us in school.
Yeah,
you know, they don't put that out for the general public typically to like have access to, and it's important for all of us. You know what I mean? And it's just not even stressed enough. And because of that, it's seen as like you shouldn't like boring or whatever, like it's boring or whatever, but it's like, you know, it's important. So
okay, yeah. So where can people find you?
You can find us at Hermosa Mobile Notary on Instagram. You can find me at Joe_Hermosa on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook, Hermosa Mobile Notary. Find me, Joe Hermosa, and TikTok too. So
yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, bro. Much love.
All right.
Bro. Have a good one.